As much as I know I shouldn't be watching this, I just want to see what theme they're going off of.
Immortal creatures teach the idea that immortality is actually a curse.
Open the book, you get into the plot, and then they just throw it at you.
Yeah.
The sex scene.
It's just interesting because it's like, oh, as a Christian, should I be okay with like the gore and like the killing?
Hello and welcome back to the Really Living Podcast. My name's Lauren. I'm with my friends Ashley, Lisette, and Eugene, and we're just going to get right into it. What is everyone's favorite form of entertainment?
I like, I'm really into shows right now.
Shows. What kind of shows? Like what genre?
Do books count as entertainment?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, then I would say books. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, me too. I'm a huge bookworm.
Okay.
Books.
What's like your genre?
Oh, I would say mystery, with murder mystery mostly, with a bit of romance.
For me, I'd say podcasts right now. That's where it's at. Like, I've tried to dabble in the murder mystery places, but I was like, it's not for me.
Though I am like the youngest here right now, I would say anime. A lot of younger people would be able to understand that.
I watch anime.
Oh, okay. Maybe you guys watch the same anime. Which anime do you
What's
watch?
your genre?
Well, I'd say I'm in One Piece and to Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer. Yes.
This is a great topic because I watched that too.
Okay. Well, you know what? Hold on to those thoughts. Maybe we'll get into that. My favorite form of entertainment is just like movies and TV. Like, I love. Okay, the last question I have, just to kind of get to know our entertainment habits, is what's everyone's favorite sport to watch? Or if you don't watch sports, you can say that too.
I don't really watch actual sports unless it's FIFA season.
I mean, I feel like that's a sport.
Yeah. Well, only when it is like the World Cup, then I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
Because in my culture, I'm Spanish. We are very much surrounded in our own. We call it football. In our football culture, especially since I'm Argentinian.
Okay.
Yeah, me, I don't necessarily watch sports that much, but I watch basketball, soccer here and there. But I'd say basketball and soccer.
Cool.
Mostly.
Cool. I would say the two sports I watch are hockey and Formula One.
Formula One. Oh my gosh, this is very diverse. I'm going to say the sport that I watch, and I actually do watch sport, believe it or not, to the people who know me. But I like to watch gymnastics. Like, I actually keep up with it throughout the year. I know who's on, specifically the U.S. team and also the Brazilian team, because they're really good. So you may be thinking, this is a Christian podcast. Like, all we're doing is sitting here and talking about all the different forms of media and entertainment that we like. We haven't one time brought up God at all. So let's get into that section. So as we enter into this, I'm going to say a verse, and it's going to be our focus for this particular part. It comes from 1 Peter 5, verse 8, and it says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." Okay, what would you guys consider to be content that is not appropriate for Christians to engage with?
I mean, anything that's overly explicit, where it kind of takes, of course, it takes you away from God's law and all that. I'd say OnlyFans.
Okay, yeah. So like you were thinking more like from like a content that you also like engaging, as in literally engaging with it.
Yeah.
Because OnlyFans, like that would be something that you're like legitimately like, it's kind of takes two to tango in a sense. Okay, that's a good example.
Another one, I'm going to take one of my mom's quotes, is that if you have to question it, am I supposed to watch this as a Christian? Then you probably shouldn't, because like one thing, I love horror. That's one thing. And my mom's not much of a fan of it. So she says there's a lot of spiritual things going on in this. And you could accidentally get into that, and then you could get possessed, or something could haunt you, or you can get easier tempted because of it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a fair point, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting because there's thresholds, or people have different convictions on like what they kind of think is okay when it comes to watching stuff. So my mind went to like the explicit content like R-rated, like sexual content in TV shows, in books, in movies. But like bringing up the horror piece, I'm totally fine with like watching movies when there's like killing scenes and gore. Like that doesn't, but so for some people it would. So it's just interesting because it's like, oh, as a Christian, should I be okay with like the gore and like the killing? you know, like I would clearly say that I'm not okay with the sexual aspects, but I'm okay with like, you know, the other stuff. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
I mean, there's a whole lot of desensitization when it comes down to it, right? Because there's, even in anime, I could say like, there's so many things that, oh no, you open yourself up to these things, just like you're saying. And then you're like, okay, what the heck is happening? Why am I dreaming all these different things and seeing all these things? Oh, because I watched a horror film.
Another thing is that, like I was going to bring that up too, is that anime is based a lot on Buddhism. So there's a lot of that. And a lot of things that you do hear a lot in anime is that God is not real.
Whoa.
Makes you wonder, should I be watching this?
That's interesting. And even like the one, I don't want to call you out, but the one title was called what? Demon
Slayer. Yeah.
Demon Slayer. On that kind of topic, the idea of the supernatural world and the content that we're watching. Sometimes it's easy for us to say, like the obvious things, like, there shouldn't be like a pornographic sex scene in a film, or maybe there shouldn't be like ongoing torture where you're like almost like, what's the point of this movie? It's just a torture fest type of things. Things like that, it's so easy to be like, like that's not good. But there are some shows. I was doing some research into the kid world, because it's not really my world. I don't have there's really no kids in my life. But I remember watching some shows when I was a kid that did have supernatural themes, and yet it was geared towards children. And so one I looked up, it's called Vampirina. Well, I think that's what it's called. And it's aged for preschool children, so like 2 to 4. And it's very cute. Like, it's this little vampire girl, and she has moved from Transylvania with her family to the real world. And she's trying to adjust to like human life. And it's very cute. It's very innocent in a way. But at the same time, I'd like to get your thoughts on having adult-like content, because really, that is a supernatural theme. And so I would call it adult content, ingrained in the young minds of kids. And how does that influence us as we kind of get into our age?
I could say is that as a child, I used to love Monster High.
I've seen that show. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like we're a little older for it to have been, but I've seen it.
Yes, I loved Monster High with all my heart. So it's very supernatural. Also Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo.
That is also another one. And I think that also kind of influenced me. Even Disney a little bit also kind of influenced me into liking horror and anime and all the other things. So it does influence you at one point.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Like, as much as you would think that show, like if you were to see it today, you'd be like, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think it, but then it's so much within the psychoanalysis and trying to make you see things from a different perspective. Like, it's very broad, but then it's like
a lot of psychological.
Yeah. And very a lot of psychological into it. Even like Jimmy Neutron, a lot of death in there, but then they kind of like gloss over it, like, oh no, they were just clones. It's okay.
Oh, interesting.
And all these different themes. So there's a whole lot of shows like way back in the 90s when I was like, I'd be like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been watching this as a kid, but now that I see, I'm like, okay, there's a whole lot of things in here that are very adult themed.
Yeah. Cool. Interesting. Honestly, I mean, I know Jimmy Neutron. I never watched it, but I've never heard of Courage the Cowardly Dog. That's a good title, though.
For me, when I'm reflecting back on the shows I used to watch, I'm actually rewatching Hannah Montana right now, by the way, guys, on Disney Plus. And so I'm looking at like the themes in Hannah Montana, and yes, like she snuck out of the house from like, her, it snuck out to do things, whatever, lied to her dad. But what I appreciate still about those shows is that there's always a lesson at the end, which I find was a common theme for some of the shows back in those days. Like the Magic School Bus was a very educational show that I used to watch as well. So I think that even though some of the shows, yes, you guys were talking about were maybe inappropriate, I think the shows today, like there's not much lessons that I think kids can take away from them compared to shows back in the day. Even like That's the Raven I used to watch. Like she was a psychic, technically, which isn't a good theme.
Right.
But there's still like things you can pull or lessons you can pull that I think made the shows just more meaningful as opposed to just empty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I was going to even talk about that show. I was going to talk about That's So Raven. And my favorite show growing up was Wizards of Waverly Place, much to my mother's dismay. But I actually understand why it was, in a sense, because you are right. A lot of those shows, if you watch them now, like there always was some sort of like lesson to be learned, which was great, like very applicable. Plus those 3 shows, like Hannah Montana, Wizards, and That's So Raven, were geared more towards like tweens. So it wasn't like young kids watching it. You were a bit more mature. So I think they had like a PG rating. But it's still interesting to me to still have like the concept of these supernatural themes being kind of tied with a bow, right? Because at the end of the day, like, you know, Alex Russo, her spell, it was quit all the racket, I'll wear a jacket. Ping! And like, obviously, like, okay, that's stupid. Like, it's, you know, silliness. But at the same time, like, it's teaching me at a young age to be into that type of theme. And then that's where it moves into the next genre and the next genre and the next genre. And so it's just something to keep in mind, I think. I'll be the first to say, kind of going into this next question, has there ever been something that you decided, you know what? Like, I got to cut this out. I got to stop watching. I can start because I'm kind of on that theme. Something I decided to kind of stop watching in my like later teen years was The Vampire Diaries, because and I'm not trying to shame anybody. Like, I obviously know this show has like a grip on people's hearts.
Crazy.
And it is. Like, it was a good show. Like, don't even get me started on the plots and the twists and which team I was, you know? But it kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? Like, first of all, the witch character, Bonnie. I mean, she was chanting in Latin. Like, it was pretty intense. And I felt like I was like, this is just not good. And I also just kept feeling that the whole theme of the show was just the glorification of the dead and the idea that there's also good in the evilness.
Yeah.
And I also thought, this was like the craziest, I actually had like this thought, like earlier this year, that a lot of those shows about like immortal creatures teach the idea that immortality is actually a curse.
Yeah.
Because usually these mythological creatures are like they're being tortured in this like lifelong existence, you know? Yeah. And so I'm saying, like, literally what you just said, they want to actually go back to being human, which is so, like, I don't know. So that was something for me personally that I said, you know what, like, I got to try to cut it out, because it's, even though I can look beyond it, I still felt like, you know what, I don't want to invite that into my home.
Just to go off of what you're already speaking about, yes, I used to watch Vampire Diaries.
We all did. I don't know if you did. It might have been. It would have been too young. It's a good thing you did it. You would have been too young.
There was even this other show called Lucifer, and it was on.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, right? And it was on Netflix and all that. And I'm like, you know what? As much as I know I shouldn't be watching this, I just want to see what theme they're going off of, right?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm there, I'm watching it. I watched the whole all seasons, and what basically the whole thing of the show was kind of making the devil seem like he's a good guy. Right? That whole flip that we always talk about, right? The evil becoming good and good becoming evil, right? So just that theme alone, and just taking away the fact that, oh, he's asking you about your desire, and then all of a sudden he's there trying to help you get your desire, even though that is the worst way you could really look at it, right? And all these people, and he's acting as a detective and this and that. He's helping people, saying that, oh, I'm just a person that was kicked out of heaven because I was trying to be different. I was trying to do things in a different way. My brothers and all that stuff, Jesus, this and that. And it's a crazy show.
Interesting. And it's funny because it's almost like not hiding, you know? Like the show is called Lucifer. Yeah. Like, it wasn't necessarily like hiding what it was going to be about, but then the theme is not what you maybe would have thought. It was like this idea. It's kind of like Loki and Thor. Yeah. Like, you know, Loki is literally supposed to be like the devil character. Yeah. And yeah, if you watch all of the series and like the movies, like he has such a he has such an arc, and like you end up really liking him. But I think it's so important to be aware of like kind of how our minds are being trained to think a certain way.
Yeah. Kind of switching gears a little bit and moving away from like TV shows.
Totally.
Like books for me was something that I had more of like a recent conviction with, because there's this world, if you read like romance novels or fantasy novels, like you can kind of combine the two together. And there's been a really big trend of like romantasy is what they call it, romance and fantasy together. And in a lot of these books, there's a lot of like sex scenes where honestly it's almost like you're reading pornography. And so that's something I initially didn't have an issue with because the plot was like so good and like the character building and like the worlds that you were in and like the fighting, like everything, like there was so much to it. So I almost like justified being like, oh, that's only like a portion of the book. Like there's so much more to it. So like, who cares? But then more recently I started to have convictions like, okay, no, like this actually isn't wrong. Like it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? So like, I can't be like out here doing this if we're, you know, because it honestly could be compared to pornography. And so, yeah, that's something that I had to like stop reading. So I'm more intentional about, I still like reading romance novels, but there's an option if you are also kind of in that similar looking for an alternative. There's closed book romance novels. So like there's still romance or sex scenes involved, but like they don't actually go into explicit detail about it. It starts it off and then it goes to the next chapter, the next scene.
So interesting. And I feel like books are different in the sense that I don't know if there's like, when you go to like Indigo, for example, is there like a rating section? Like where it's like, this is adult content or this is like teen content?
Yeah, they do have like a teen section and then an adult section.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
I can only imagine what that does to your brain, like because you're not seeing it. It's different from you actually watching it. Now you're literally within the fantasy.
Yeah,
so
and
it's like
and I didn't even know that I was getting into it until after I got into it because the cover of these books, like I'm like I had no idea what it was about. It was recommended online, so yeah, and then I start listening to it or like reading it, and I'm like, oh wait, what the heck? So like it was kind of deceiving because I had no idea that's what was in the book in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've also struggled with that. You really don't know when you enter because it could be they give you the most innocent covers ever. And you open the book, you get into the plot, and then they just throw it at you, the sex scene. And then I started try to stop with it, so I turned into this Korean books where it's called manhwas. I don't know if you've read them before.
I haven't.
It's kind of like a Korean comic book, and I fell in love with it. I was like, this is amazing. The plot's great, and it's really innocent and stuff like that. And then again, there is a section where there's sex scenes in there, and you don't even notice that you're getting into it, right? So yeah, I have been cutting off of that and saying, listen, I can't continue doing this. Yeah. As a young teenager, it's not embarrassing to do this. It's enjoying kids shows.
Oh my gosh, girl. Like, I'm 27 years old, and I watch Kim Possible sometimes.
I'm watching Hannah Montana, like, guys.
Like, there's no issues.
I would watch these shows, right? And then it would get to the point from the original shows, it's really innocent and really nice. And then one thing I noticed is that they start changing to accommodate to the younger generation, which is my sisters. And then they start losing the purpose of the whole plot. They start losing the lesson, and they change everything, and it becomes too much energy in the show, and then you're still stuck because you're hoping that it will go back. But then I had to at one point say, okay, enough is enough. I have to find my own alternative as an older person. So that was one for me.
Yeah.
Like even the manga that you're talking about, they have some on YouTube that they display and stuff like that. And what I've realized about the themes of it, it's like as much as it is geared towards the sexual content, it's kind of, I found that it was sticking on the principles of like Flea. So there'll be a lot of, the main character would have like a whole bunch of people coming after him, mainly women, but then he would always run away. So I'm like, so they really are sticking to the whole Flea from this because he's on a journey and he can't get distracted from his journey by all these different things or themes that are coming up to him. So it's like him running away, like literally jumping out of a window, like leaping into the air and flying off.
Moving into our next section, I do want to talk a little bit about music because music is obviously also a form of entertainment. So going into this section, I'm also going to read a verse as our focus. This is from 2 Corinthians 11, verse 3, and it says, "But I am afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ." So I would love to hear everyone's perspectives on listening to secular music as a Christian. Does it matter? Is it something that you do? Like, what are your thoughts?
I stopped. listening
stopped?
to secular music for a while.
Okay.
And like here and there, I'll listen to the latest song, but most of the time I'm listening to my Christian music. And the reason why I stopped was because the way how it really affects your whole life. Like I didn't even take it in that it was affecting me so much. I'd be listening to maybe like, I don't know, back in the day, Jada Kiss or something like that. And like, oh wow. Like,
What genre is that?
it's hip hop.
Okay.
Right. So it became to the point like, okay, now I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to dress like these people. I'm trying to speak like these people. Like, right. So it's all these different things started to come up. I'm like, this is not who I am. Let me leave this and see what happens. And that whole switch, I haven't really gone back into it, but it's always it's like, wow, it's such a difference of how it affects you in this little way. Just a couple words and your whole life changes.
I would say I'm still getting into that transition, right? Well, looking back to when I was younger, which is a couple years ago, going back to my old playlists, my old websites where I used to listen to music to, I'll be like, wow, I really listened to this? This is really not who I am.
Right.
Right? And just recently I've deleted a whole playlist, right? Because I didn't find it any way representing of who I am as a person. And I just created a new one. Sure, I do like to listen back to some old music as a kid when I used to listen to, but even then, I'm still wondering, I'm like, okay, is this like good? Is this like representing what I'm trying to be now and stuff like that?
I think you have to know yourself. Like, if you're the type where you're influenced by music and kind of what Eugene was saying, where it really does start to impact or bleed into your everyday life, then you need to be able to check yourself and pull back. So for me, I don't really listen to secular music because music is just very influential for me. And so I have to be intentional about that. So, but some people can listen to secular music and it doesn't affect them. So I think it just depends on the person. For example, like when I would be driving with friends in the car who are not Christian, like I don't change the music that I listen to accommodate other people that are sitting in my car. So I'm listening to Christian music, and like my friends actually enjoy my Christian music, and some of them save songs to their playlist. And like I'm watching a show, The Chosen, right now, and so I remember watching it with a friend who's not Christian, and she actually really enjoyed it, and that was like it gave a very different perspective on Christianity for her and Jesus, and like she went off to watch the show on her own. She's still not Christian, but like she really likes the show. Planted a seed. So I would also just say, just don't adjust your lifestyle just to fit into other people's. Also be willing to be bold enough to invite people into your lifestyle and to show them a different side or perspective of entertainment that they may not have ever been exposed to had they not, been your friend.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. Like, I actually do listen to secular music, probably more than I actually listen to Christian music. But to be quite honest, I really don't listen to music like that in general anyways. But if I find myself listening to something, it is probably more secular. Yet I still do find myself being quite a dedicated Christian. So I don't know why I haven't necessarily crossed that bridge yet. But I can definitely still say that, should I? Probably not, because some of the music I'm listening to, like pop-wise, it may be questionable. So the point of that, though, is we're all on our own journey, but I definitely would never say that it's something that we should, like, strive to be stuck in, if you will. But I also wanted to ask if there's any thoughts on the influence of Hollywood in the Christian music industry. So, like, for example, do you guys think a Christian artist who's up for a Grammy should attend the Grammys?
Like, I understand where the sentiment is in not showing up, because yes, you're not trying to, it's to glorify God at the end of the day, right? And it's not for, I'm going up there to receive this on my merits, because that's what other people would say. It's like, why are you going up there when you should be just giving it to God? That's why, as your question has stated, that a lot of people didn't go to this award show. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, there was something going on.
Right, and most of them got backlash from them not even going, because it's like, why aren't you going? It's like, you did this song and all this stuff. It's like, no, you know what? I'm not going to go because I'm not here to I'm here to glorify God, and this is why I even created the music.
Yeah, I know you guys are talking about the Dove Awards. There was an artist that chose to not go. It was kind of split on both sides. I do think, if you reflect on the life of Jesus, he was a light, and he was able to go into dark spaces and be that representation. So I don't think we should shy away from going into spaces. But I do think, as an artist, you obviously need to know yourself. So for the person that I think we're kind of referring to, or any artist, honestly, if you feel as if going into that place and receiving like this award is going to cause you to kind of think too much of yourself and forget who you're doing it for, then obviously pull back. So I think it's just a conviction thing. But if you can use that as an opportunity to go to the Grammys and then preach the gospel in a space where there's going to be a lot of people who are not Christians, that could be some people's introduction to Jesus, to the gospel. So I think there could be an opportunity for someone to hear that and then, start going down that path. So I don't know. I think it depends on personal conviction, but I wouldn't say I would just write it off for all Christians to not attend. I think it just depends on, who it is and who you are.
For me, is I would say think about the people who are giving this award to you. If they're not representing what your music is trying to represent, you probably shouldn't go and grab that award. Because if they're there to idolize you, and that's not what you're trying to do, then you shouldn't get the award, because then the people who you're trying to help get closer to God would lose their focus on God.
Yeah.
And then you will become their idol. And that, of course, is a sin. You don't want other people to sin because of your behalf.
Yeah. No, I think those are all good thoughts. And I think it's a hard question, because it also, we don't know. I mean, none of us that I know are Christian artists ready to accept their Grammy.
Nope.
But it kind of just ties into the thought of like, is God okay with us mixing the world with his things? And I specifically said the Grammys because, that's like the biggest award show, at least for the music industry as a whole. And there are Christians who do win Grammys. There's plenty of very, very popular Christian songs that are Grammy winners. And so it is just more so of a reflection for all forms of entertainment, whether it's music, books, TV, what kind of sports you watch, what kind of devotion to sports do you have? I think that's a big one. The Blue Jays just lost. The Blue Jays just lost the World Series. By me even saying that, you can tell I obviously wasn't paying attention. But what I did see in the aftermath of that was on my social media were people on the streets crying. There was this one funny video where this girl was like, "This is the most depressing day of my life ever since I've been a Blue Jays fan for 8 days." And I mean, I thought that was a funny take on it because everyone really did just become a Blue Jays fan randomly. But what I really saw is a pattern that I've seen in a lot of sports and also a lot of big genres. So people who are really into Star Wars, Game of Thrones, some of the genres you guys mentioned, the books that you mentioned, people can turn this into their religion where they know absolutely everything. They can tell you at what date the producer went to this store to buy this copy, and that's what inspired the whole thing. And it can sometimes become so consuming that that's all that's in your brain. And that when it comes time to turn that off, it does become more important to you. And so, for example, there could be like a huge game on, say on a Saturday night. And Saturday night, your church is also doing, I don't know, like an evangelistic series. And you have to make the decision, am I going to go to this evangelistic series or am I going to watch this big game? And that in and of itself, I don't want to put anybody on the spot because I'm talking to me too, is a decision making in your brain of who is my God? Who's more important? And so that's kind of the idea of everything we've been talking about. It's okay to like different forms of entertainment. I will sit here and admittedly say my favorite TV show of all time is Game of Thrones. Like, that's not a good, wholesome Christian show to watch. I'm aware. It has all of the things that we spoke about as things you shouldn't engage with. And so I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical in case someone looks up what I've been watching and say, oh, this girl said this, but she's doing this behind the camera. No. Like, I'll tell you that this is what I'm doing. But I'm also aware that if God said, if I really was feeling the conviction like I did for the Vampire Diaries, it was like, you know what, I got to close this. I'm not there with that show just yet, but maybe one day I will be. But I do know that if I had to choose between like going to like, I don't know, some like fest for it or going to, like I said, an evangelistic series that I'm a part of, I'm going to the evangelistic series because that for me is like, no way, like that is my number one. And so, yeah, that's just kind of the whole idea. This episode wasn't about trying to say what's right or what's wrong. It was really getting down to what we just kind of wrapped up there, and that is, who is your God? Entertainment or God? Okay, well, thank you guys. Let's just say a word of prayer to end, okay? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity that we had to discuss just kind of the different things that are in our minds that really do sometimes take up a really big bulk of our day and what we spend our time talking about with our friends. So Lord God, I just pray that in this conversation, one thing we can take away is that the knowledge that we have within the forms of entertainment, we want to have that same and if not more level of knowledge when it comes to your written word, because we want to be able to name all of the different stats within the word, just like people can name the stats of sports players or different producers, film artists, books, authors, whatever it is. We want to really know about your written word. And so Lord God, I just pray for anyone who's listening that it wouldn't be something that they would feel that they are being judged for what they're watching or what they're listening to or what they're reading, but that it would be an opportunity for them to reflect and say, hey, is this something that glorifies your name? And is this something that brings me closer to you? And this I pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.